Good morning, one and all present here. On behalf of Principal, MEM Muthaya Government Arts College, Dindikkal, Professional Development Training Cell, and IQAC, warmly welcome you all in this webinar. Today title on outcome-based assessment tools and techniques. In this connection, we already discussed a little bit of information in the last session handled by Dr. D. Maheshwari on 14/5/2021. This session especially focuses on assessment tools and techniques which are normally used in various university and autonomous colleges for obtained outcome-based education. Our university recently conducted a board of studies to refine the syllabus for all UG and PG departments based on this outcome-based education. So now we are ready to tune in and adapt that situation to handle the subject in an effective manner. We hope this session will provide that opportunity to all. First, I would like to invite Dr. K. Periyasamy, Professor, Department of Tamil, Coordinator of Professional Development Training, to deliver the welcome address. Sir, Periyasamy sir. வெல்கம் அட்ரஸ் சார்.
கேக்குதுங்களா? வணக்கம். வணக்கங்கய்யா, வணக்கம். கேக்குதுங்களா?
கேக்குதுங்க. வெல்கம் அட்ரஸ்ங்க.
நன்றிங்க, நன்றிங்க, நன்றிங்க. அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். ப்ரொஃபஷனல் டெவலப்மெண்ட் அண்ட் ட்ரைனிங் செல் மற்றும் ஐக்கிஏசி சார்பாக நடைபெறும் இன்றைய நிகழ்வினுடைய வரவேற்பு நிகழ்வாக முதலில் எமது கல்லூரியினுடைய முதல்வர் முனைவர் அனுராதா அம்மா அவர்களையும் ஐக்கிஏசி கோஆர்டினேட்டர் டாக்டர் KM சுமதி அவர்களையும் NAC ஒருங்கிணைப்பாளர் விலங்கியல் துறை தலைவர் சத்யபாமா அவர்களையும் இன்றைய பொழிவாளர் சிறப்பு பொழிவினை நிகழ்த்த உள்ள முனைவர் N குமரேஷ் அவர்களையும் வருக வருக என முதலில் வரவேற்கிறேன். அடுத்தபடியாக இந்நிகழ்வினை கேட்டு பயன்பெற உள்ள எமது கல்லூரியினுடைய பல்துறை தலைவர்கள் மற்றும் அனைத்து துறை பேராசிரியர் நண்பர்களுக்கும் மற்றும் ஆசிரியல்லா பணியாளர்கள் மற்றும் அலுவலக நண்பர்கள் யாவரையும் வருக வருக என வரவேற்கிறேன். இந்த நிகழ்வினுடைய இறுதியில் நன்றியுரை ஆற்ற உள்ள கணினி அறிவியல் துறை தலைவர் முனைவர் S கிருஷ்ணவேணி அம்மா அவர்களையும் வருக வருக என வரவேற்று அமைகிறேன். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.
நன்றிங்கய்யா. நன்றிங்க
ஐயா.
ஐயா நன்றிங்க. நன்றிங்க
ஐயா. வணக்கம்.
ஐயா ஐயா மைக் ஆஃப் பண்ணிக்கங்க. தேங்க்யூ. I very much happy to invite our honorable and beloved principal madam Dr. V. Anuradha to give the presidential address in this webinar series. Ma'am.
நன்றி சுப்பிரமணியன். அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். அனைவரும் நலமாயிருப்பீர்கள் என்று நம்புகிறேன், வாழ்த்துகிறேன். நல்லதொரு அரங்கு இது, ஆசிரியர்களுக்கான நல்லதொரு அரங்கு இது. எப்போது இன்புட் என்று ஒன்று வந்து விட்டதோ அப்போதே அவுட்கம் என்பதும் நாம் எதிர்நோக்க வேண்டிய ஒன்றாகிவிட்டது. எல்லா பல்கலைக்கழகங்களிலும் நம்முடைய பேராசிரியர் சொன்ன மாதிரி அப்பதான் சிலபஸ் ஃப்ரேம் பண்ணியிருந்தாங்கன்னாலுமே திடீர்னு ஒரு இது வந்தது, அவுட்கம் பேஸ்டு சிலபஸாக வைக்கணும்னு டான்ஸ்கி முதற்கொண்டு பலருடைய ரெக்கமெண்டேஷன்ஸ், UGC டான்ஸ்கி எல்லாத்தினுடைய ரெக்கமெண்டேஷன்ஸும் இப்படி வந்தது. யூனிவர்சலாக அவுட்கம் பேஸ்டு எஜுகேஷனாக நம்முடைய கல்வி முறையை மாற்றுவது என்பது தீர்மானிக்கப்பட்டு ஃப்ரேம் பண்ணப்பட்ட பாடத்திட்டங்களையே அவுட்கம் பேஸ்டாக திரும்ப ரீஃப்ரேம் பண்ற மாதிரி ஒரு சூழ்நிலை எழுந்தது. அப்போ அவுட்கம் பேஸ்டாக நம்ம பண்ணும்போது என்னென்ன கருவிகளையும் உத்தி முறைகளையும் நாம் கையாள வேண்டியுள்ளது அப்படின்றத நம்ம யோசிக்கும் போது, நம்முடைய சிலபஸ் வைக்கும்போது மாணவர்கள் பெற வேண்டிய மென்திறன்கள், வன்திறன்கள், பாடப்பகுதிகள், அவர்களுக்கு போய் சேர வேண்டிய நெடிது காலம் அவர்கள் நினைவில் நிற்க வேண்டிய பாடப்பகுதிகள், சமுதாயத்திற்கு பயன்படக்கூடிய பகுதிகள் என்று இவற்றை வரையறை செய்து ரீஃப்ரேம் பண்றதுன்னு ஒரு முறை வந்தது. இப்போ அந்த காலகட்டத்துல இருக்கிற நாம அது பற்றின ஒரு தெளிவான ஒரு கண்ணோட்டத்துக்கு வரணும் போது அது பற்றின அரங்குகள் நமக்கு தேவைப்படுகின்றன. நம்முடைய சிறப்பு விருந்தினர் திருவாளர் என் குமரேஷ் மாதிரியான ஆட்கள் அந்த பணியை மிகச் சிறப்பாக செய்வார்கள் என்று அரங்கு எதிர்பார்க்கிறது. அன்னாருக்கு கல்லூரி சார்பிலும் என் தனிப்பட்ட வகையிலும் என்னுடைய வரவேற்பினை தெரிவித்து இந்த நிகழ்வினை ஒழுங்கு செய்வதற்காக நம்ம பிடிடி செல்லில் சேர்ந்த முனைவர் சுப்பிரமணியன் கணினி அறிவியல் துறை, முனைவர் பெரியசாமி தமிழ்துறை இருவரையும் வாழ்த்துவதோடு நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு நன்றியுரை தெரிவிக்க காத்திருக்கும் கிருஷ்ணவேணி அம்மையாரையும் வணங்கி பல்வேறு நிகழ்ச்சிகளை ஒழுங்கு செய்து ஒன்னோட ஒண்ணு அது ஓவர்லப் ஆகாம அவற்றை மிகச் சீராக கொண்டு சென்று கொண்டிருக்கும் ஐக்கியூஎஸ்சி ஒருங்கிணைப்பாளர்கள் முனைவர் கே எம் சுமதி ஆங்கிலத்துறை, முனைவர் கே ராமசாமி கல்லூரி நூலகர் என்ற அனைவரையும் இந்த வேளையிலே வாழ்த்தி விடைபெறுகிறேன். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.
நன்றி அம்மா. Introduction to resource person. I would like to invite Dr. K.M. Sumati, Professor, Department of English, IQAC Coordinator, to introduce our today resource person. Ma'am, Sumati ma'am?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I'm here, sir. Can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me,
yes,
all of
ma'am.
you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Good morning, distinguished chief guest, sir, Dr. Kumaresh, our efficient and eminent principal, Dr. Anuradha, esteemed program coordinators, organizers, and colleagues, and non-teaching faculty. It gives me immense pleasure for being part of this program. I would like to thank Dr. Subramani for giving me an opportunity to introduce our today's chief guest, Dr. Kumaresh. Dr. Kumaresh, MCA, MPhil, ME, PhD, Associate Professor and Head, Department of the Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning from Dr. N. GP Arts and Science College, Coimbatore. Sir has got 16 years of teaching and 8 years of research experience, has earned his PhD and ME from Anna University, Chennai. He had his MPhil from Periyar University, Salem, and MCA and graduation from Dr. NSNS Rajalakshmi College of Arts and Science, Bardiyar University, Coimbatore. His specialization is on ontology, engineering, knowledge management, and semantic web. In addition to that, he has qualified himself with the certificate courses on R programming, British English certification, in short it is called as a BEC courses, information security, deep learning, and artificial intelligence. Dr. Kumaresh has completed a e-healthcare application for inhabitants in rural areas of Tamil Nadu, funded by Tamil Nadu State Council for Science and Technology. To his credit, he has published 10 research articles in the reputed international and national refereed journals and also presented research papers in national conferences. His participation in several conferences and seminars and workshops exemplifies his subject resourcefulness. Dr. Kumaresh, a great academician, has organized international conferences, seminars, and workshops, and he is also a renowned orator, gave special invited talk and lectures in different occasions. He is a member of reputed professional bodies like Indian Society for Technical Education, Computer Society of India, International Association for Engineers, Internet Society, Society of Digital Information and Wireless Communication. Great, sir. Dr. Kumaresh is also the recipient of Dr. Radhakrishnan Award for the Academic Excellence in the year 2017. He is a recognized chairperson for several international conferences and a wonderful reviewer, jury of international reputed journals. So we are very much overwhelmed to be here in this platform, sir. Sir, once again, I extend a very warm welcome on behalf of our college, and we are very much eagerly waiting to listen to your lecture. Thank you, sir.
Sir? Sir?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ah,
Am I
yes.
audible to you? Am
Yes,
I
sir.
audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Shall I start, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Whether my PPT is visible?
Sir, not visible. Sir, not visible, sir.
Is it visible, sir?
Sir, not visible. சார் ப்ரெசென்டரில் வந்திருக்கீங்களா சார்? இல்லை
ப்ரெசென்டரில் தான் உள்ள வந்திருக்கீங்க சார்.
ப்ரெசென்ட் பண்ணுங்க சார். ஷேர் பண்ணுங்க பிபிடியை.
ஒரே நிமிஷம். Is it visible now, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful introduction. So, most respected Madam Principal and the beloved coordinators of this webinar, Dr. Perisami sir and Dr. Subramaniam sir, learned professors, members of faculty, a very good morning to you all. I feel deeply honored to be part of this webinar today. So I thank Dr. Subramaniam sir for inviting me for this event to talk something about the outcome-based education framework, so which we are practicing with our institution. So now this outcome-based education framework, so it is a different paradigm. So now we are in an instruction paradigm. So now we are simply we are shifting to the learning paradigm. So instead of delivering instruction, we are creating learning, or we need to produce a learning. So this is what the situation now. So this is what my presentation overview today. So I will start with introduction to the outcome-based education. In that, we are going to discuss about what is OBE and why, what is the need for OBE in India, and what are the basic principles of outcome-based education, and what really an outcome-based learning is, and what is the philosophy behind this outcome-based education, and what are the major elements or the building blocks of outcome-based education system. And so this is what my real area. So this is how I have prepared. So my topic that I have given is outcome-based assessment tools and techniques. But sir, I have requested, so we have to pour more about the basic aspects of outcome-based education. That is why I have planned this introduction part. So in this assessment, so we are going to discuss about the improving structure and quality assessment principles of outcome-based education assessment, and what are the various methods and tools in that assessment. And later we'll see some certain, I'm going to project you some of the formats and templates related to assessment of COs and POs, so-called course outcomes and program outcomes. And later we would have end up with challenges faced by the educators in the adaptation of outcome-based education. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Sir, yes, sir. Yes,
Hello?
Sir, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Audible.
My
sir.
PPT,
Yes, sir.
so my presentation is visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, publish slide show present பண்ணுங்க சார்.
ஸ்லைட் ஷோல தான் போட்டுருக்கீங்க சார்.
அப்படியா? ஓகே சார். ஓகே.
So we'll start with the introduction part of outcome-based education. So we are in a process of we are in a process of getting accreditation from various accreditation bodies. Whether our institution that belongs to an arts and science institution, so the National Assessment and Accreditation Council, so-called NAC under UGC, so a body for promoting the international quality standards for the higher education institutions in India, has started accrediting the institution by implementing this outcome-based education from 2017 onwards, I think. Hence, it is a transition stage for the higher education institutions as we are in a process of implementing the outcome-based education. So this is a fact that we are supposed to know what is the loop and corner which are related with this outcome-based education actually. So this outcome-based education is a very important and vital topic in our education system today in India. So not only in India, throughout the world. So if you want to understand what is outcome-based education, first you have to understand what is outcome. If we have to understand the outcome properly, then we have to understand what is the difference between the objective and an outcome. See, what is an objective? An objective is with respect to the teacher. So I'm stressing, the objective is with respect to the teacher, whereas the outcome is with respect to the students or the real learners. So now, for example, the objective means in what intention the teacher is teaching a course or the teaching a particular topic to the students. It entirely focusing on the intention of a teacher, whereas the outcome, which means it is entirely focusing on the student. In brief, the outcome means after learning a topic or a course, what the student is able to do. So that is what is called as an outcome. So now we are clearly understand that the objectives are different and the outcomes are different. So now we can come to the point that what is an outcome-based education? So an outcome-based education is a student-centric approach. As I said at the initial, so we are moving from a paradigm shift, an instruction paradigm to the learning paradigm, which means instead of providing or delivering instructions to the student, so we are producing learning or we are motivating the student to learn. So we are shifting from the traditional education system, which means faculty-centric education system, to the learner-centric education system.
Hey.
So the William Spady, so well known, he's called, I hope everybody would have understood, father of OBE, William Spady. He attempts in enhancing the quality in the education system by introducing this outcome-based approach. And he indeed brought a revolutionary change in the traditional education system, right? So this outcome-based education, as I said earlier, it is a student-centric curriculum design. So we are focusing on designing a curriculum and syllabi based upon the industry requirement, and we need to plan for how your curriculum design is aligned with the outcome-based education and how the instruction model is aligned with the outcome-based education. So we are slightly shifting the focus of education from teaching to learning. That is what, as I have clearly mentioned, we are moving from faculty-centric to the learner-centric. So when you are moving this outcome-based education, it is a cyclic process, which leads to a lot of cycle. We can call it a CQI process. I think we people are aware, continuous quality improvement process. What is the purpose of this continuous quality improvement? So we are continuously monitoring the quality of a particular quality of a graduate after graduation. Moving towards the outcome is we are moving towards the excellence. So that is why the outcome-based education is a cyclic process which leads to a continuous quality improvement process towards excellence. So this is what I have clearly mentioned. So unlike traditional way of teaching learning, the outcome-based education model that focuses on mapping, measuring, and achieving the predefined educational goals. What is that? So we are having a what we can call it as educational goals. We are aware the educational goals are not limited to the academics. So, but also include the attributes like what we can call the attributes for the graduates, what we can call it as GS, graduate attributes. So that will determine what are the qualities or what are the properties if a graduate is supposed to have after completion of this particular degree program. So it should be a fundamental knowledge about a subject or a problem solving aspect or an ability to simplify a complex problem, or he'll be able to work in an individual way, or he or she may be fit into what teamwork, professionalism, ethics, moral values, communication skills, and at last lifelong learning. So these attributes are called graduate attributes. That is what I have mentioned in this as GAs, graduate attributes.
Sir?
Yes, sir.
Sir, sorry for interrupt. Sir, PPT move பண்றீங்களா சார்?
Move ஆகலைங்களா?
move ஆகலைங்க சார்.
ஒரே நிமிஷம். என்னாச்சு தெரியல.
இப்போதான் மூவ் ஆகுது சார்.
Okay, sir. Now it is okay?
இப்போ வந்து introduction to OBE.
Right.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, change ஆகலைன்னு சொல்லிருங்க.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So we are moving from the traditional education system to the outcome-based education. So that is what our focus is on, how to map and how to measure and how to achieve a predefined educational goals. So these educational goals are not limited in a traditional education system. So it may include a lot of attributes. So the attributes that I mentioned as it should be a knowledge, or it should be a problem solving aspect, or it should be an individual work or teamwork or professionalism and ethics, moral values, communication skills, lifelong learning. So what we can call it as graduate attributes. Those are the graduate attributes. We supposed to define those are the graduate attributes where a particular student is supposed to have after completion of this particular degree program. So which indicates, so the outcome-based education is a step-by-step process. So it is not a single step process. So it is a step-by-step process. So what we are going to do with this outcome-based education? So we are going to integrate these graduate attributes in the teaching learning process. That's it. So we are going to define, we only define the graduate attributes. What are the graduate attributes if the student is supposed to have after completion of this degree program? So we are going to integrate these attributes in the teaching learning process so that the end goal is to assess the outcomes. So that is why these graduate attributes are very much important. So the basic part, the fundamental part of an outcome-based education is graduate attributes. So that will determine the quality of a graduate. That will determine the quality of a graduate. What is the fundamental knowledge if a particular student is having? What is the problem-solving aspect, or what is the skill set of a student related to a problem-solving aspect? So this is what we are moving to the assessment, or whether the student is able to solve a complex problem in an intelligent way or not, whether the student is able to fit into an individual work, whether the student is able to fit into a teamwork, or whether the student is conducting himself in a professional way, whether the student is having ethics and moral values, whether the student will be able to address the gathering with proper communication skills. So those are the aspects that will determine the quality of a graduate. So that is why these attributes are called graduate attributes. These are the fundamental aspect of OBE. So the next question that I have given here is, why outcome-based education? So I have simply mentioned this only one term, unemployment. So before understanding the concept of outcome-based education, we must understand why there is a need for an outcome-based education system, or what are the factors that have made this outcome-based education. So the most sensible way of learning in the current situation, we can go for outcome-based education. So, well, the prime reason is unemployment. So we supposed to aware what is the flow of a typical education system, our traditional education method. So let you can assume the faculty members and students are spending countless times and effort in academic lectures, so that they are focusing only on theoretical aspects. And the parents are also spending a lot of money to their children's studies. And the last one is very, very important. The employment ratio is very low due to the gap between the industry requirements and the curriculum. So industry requirement is completely different and our curriculum is totally different. So thus impact. So this will impact the skill set of the student. So I have went through some certain survey which is given by CMIE. So as per the report of CMIE, India's unemployment rate as of February 2021 is found to be of 36.8%. It is really shocking, and this is why it is essential to change our perspective of the education system and to encourage us to adapt an outcome-based learning system besides gaining the academic knowledge. So the students need have to skills, practical experience that would be really help them to grow in their careers. So the outcome-based education framework works in synchronization with what we can call it as Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy, or we can call it as revised Bloom's taxonomy. So I don't know, I don't want to touch that because this was already gone through by some certain expert persons in the previous sessions. So we would have simply start with the levels of learning. So the bottommost level is knowledge. If I'm wrong, you may correct me. The next level is comprehension, and third level is application, and the fourth level is analysis, and the fifth level is synthesis, and the last level is creation or evaluation. So for an undergraduate student, we supposed to concentrate on this first three levels. So we have to concentrate on remembrance, understanding, and application, which means knowledge, comprehension, and application. So this sort of a thinking, we can call it as lower order thinking. So the next three types of skills, we can call it as higher order thinking levels. So we are going to merge this Bloom's taxonomy in each and every aspect of outcome-based education system, which means we are going to embed this Bloom's taxonomy with framing an outcome-based curriculum, and we are going to incorporate this Bloom's taxonomy with outcome-based learning and teaching process, and we are going to embed this Bloom's taxonomy with outcome-based assessment also. So I'm going to categorize. I'll show you my presentation so that you can understand clearly. So before entering to this, so even most of the reputed accreditation agencies like NAAC or NBA, National Board of Accreditation, or National Assessment and Accreditation Council, respective of the bodies. So we are the permanent signatory members of Washington Accord. So they have, for an engineering college, they would have given a lot of aspects related with, they supposed to give their graduate attributes, program outcomes, so like that. So what we supposed to do is, we supposed to align our curriculum according to that particular matter alone. Whereas in arts and science institutions of our kind, they didn't give any directions. Simply they have given a direction to move with outcome-based education. So that each and every aspects we need to plan. You have to adapt graduate attributes. You have to frame our own COs. We have to frame our own POs. Even if the POs are common, quite simply you can frame program-specific objectives, PSOs also. For each and every program, we need to frame a program educational objectives. I'll be clearly explaining you what is the difference between the outcomes in the part of outcomes. So we are the permanent signatory members of Washington Accord. So we have to specify certain guidelines from the for the institutions that they require to calculate accurately, assess the student learning outcomes in order to get the successful accreditation. So for this purpose, also we can go for this outcome-based education. So these are some of the reasons why we are moving to this outcome-based education. So the next aspect is principles of outcome-based education. What is the principle behind this outcome-based education? This we want to know. So let us first understand the basic principles of outcome-based education principle. So the first principle is organization of curriculum. So which means, so the syllabus and the curriculum is designed because they are the end goals. So the faculty gets a provision to mold the content as per the student requirements and the industry requirements too. So your curriculum should be up to date. It should be aligned with the outcomes, whether it should be a course outcome or a program outcome or program educational objective. Second principle is student skill enhancement. So being an outcome-based education practitioner, so we have rights to process this outcome-based education as a student-centric teaching learning process. So that is what, as I have clearly mentioned, we are shifting from instruction paradigm to learning paradigm. So being outcome-based education is a student-centric teaching learning process that enables the student to develop and polish their skill sets. So we need to provide the guidelines. So they need only the facilitator rather than a teacher. So that the deep learning will happen. So I could you all know, you're all learned professors, you know what is surface learning and what is deep learning. So not in a concept of computer science aspect. Deep learning and surface learning. And the third aspect is outcome focused techniques. What does that outcome focused techniques mean? So the outcome focused technique, so that allow the faculty to map and measure their strategies, because they would have framed the strategies, right? So it allows the faculty to map and measure their strategies and bring the best out of the students. So that is what the real aspect of outcome-based education is. And the last one is very, very important, global opportunities for the students. So they are the end products. They are our brands. So the well-organized way of learning, so that enables the students to grow on an individual level to meet the international standards of quality education and boost their career also. So this is what 4 principles of outcome-based education. So now we'll slightly move to this outcome aspect. So the outcome-based learning is directly proportional to outcomes. Outcomes are nothing but the end results. However, the outcomes are differ at every stage, as a beginner, as an intermediate, as an expert of learning. And they need to be categorized and mapped at the appropriate level. So as I said, the outcomes are nothing but the end results. So we have to categorize the outcomes into 3 major outcomes. One is course outcomes, second one is program outcomes, and third one is program educational objectives. So let us understand the types of outcomes in OBE. So the course outcomes is nothing but a statement. So the COs are achieved at the end of the semester, or end of the course or end of the year. For instance, if a student is studying a particular course, then the outcomes would be concluded on the basis of the marks or the grades achieved in the theory and practical classes. So upon completion of a course, so we would have to go for course outcome. So what is the outcome? Whether the student, what the student will be able to do at the end of the course, that is called course outcome. And the second one is program outcomes. Upon completion of a program, after completing a degree, at the end of third year for an undergraduate student. So the POs are achieved at the end of any specialization or a discipline. So these attributes are mapped while, so the attributes are nothing but the graduate attributes are mapped while a student is doing a graduation and determining when they are get a degree. So that is why I have clearly mentioned after completion of a degree, what the student will be able to do, whether he will be able to perform so this role or that role, etc. And the third outcome is program educational objective. So the program educational objective can be assessed after 3 to 4 years after the graduation. This is also a statement. All the statements are measured. So we should be very careful in framing course outcomes, program outcomes, and program educational objectives. So for framing this course outcomes, program outcomes, and program educational objectives, we are supposed to comply with the Bloom's taxonomy. And this PEO, program educational objective, can be assessed after 3 to 4 years of the graduation, after graduation. So the PEOs that specifies the expected outcomes of a candidate after 3 to 5 years upon their graduation. So the graduate, mostly they conduct their behavior and ethics and excel in their careers or not. So this is what the aspect we need to check with this program educational objective. So this about some aspect related to outcomes. So the next thing is, yes. So this is what the outcome of this session, what I have talked with previous 10 slides. So you're simply the outcome-based education that addresses the following. What is that? What the student should be able to do. What the student will be able to do. So the end result is outcome-based education, OBE. Second question, how to align these outcomes with the syllabus. So we are linking here. So that is what, as I have clearly mentioned, it is a constructive alignment process. Implementation of an outcome-based education into an higher education institution is a constructive alignment process. It is a step-by-step process. It is not a single process. You can see, so I have listed 4 major processes here. If we want to assess what the student should be able to do, we can refer outcome-based education. How to align the course outcomes with the syllabus, we can check with the outcome-based curriculum, OBC. And the third question is, how to make the student to achieve the outcomes. So this is a process of a facilitator. So we can pass the content to the student or to make the student to achieve the outcomes only through this outcome-based learning and teaching, not teaching and learning. Because as I said, so we are moving from instruction paradigm to learning paradigm. So the outcome for the third question is outcome-based learning and teaching. So this is what the role of the teacher is, facilitator here. We have to facilitate the student to achieve a goal. That is the thing. And the fourth question is how to measure the student's success. This is a very, very important aspect and interesting aspect also. And we would have to very careful while measuring the student performance. because this could be the record of a particular batch of students. So the outcome is outcome based assessment, OBA. So as I said, so the entire process of outcome based education is a constructive alignment process. This is a process we usually follow when we build up an OBE system, outcome based education system. So what is the meaning of that constructive alignment? Constructive, which refers to what the learners does to create a meaning through the relevant learning activities, which means what the student should be able to do. And the alignment is an aspect which refers to the act of a teacher. So the key to the alignment are the components in the teaching system. The assessment tasks are aligned to the learning activities assumed in the intended outcomes. So with this, an outcome-based education system is a step-by-step process, as I said. So now we'll see what are the aspects which we need to consider for the first aspect, outcome-based curriculum. So when you're designing an outcome-based curriculum, so we have to follow these three major levels in setting up a curriculum for a program. One, you need to align your curriculum with the institutional level. You need to align your curriculum with your program level, which means the course degree level. And the third aspect, you need to align your curriculum with course level, right? So alignment of your curriculum with institution level with respect to the vision and mission of the institution, comparable with the vision and mission of the department. And the second aspect, aligning the curriculum with program level by setting up a proper measures for the outcomes, program educational objectives, program outcomes, program specific outcomes. It's like that. And third aspect is aligning a curriculum with course level. You have to design a course with a course outcome. And after creating a course, we have to deliver the content. So the content delivery in the mode of theory, practical, project, assignment, group discussion, tutorial, etc., etc., etc. We have various methods. So many number of methods are there. And these are the steps which we need to follow for implementing an outcome-based education in a curriculum design. The first step is to prepare a matrix of a course against PO. So you have to identify the course, and we need to define a program outcome first, and we have to align the courses with program outcome. So that matrix, we can call it as course to PO articulation matrix. So which indicates a PO to be delivered by each course. So we have to align a course with PO, right? And the second step, for each core course, define set of one or more COs. So there is no minimum and maximum number of COs. We can go up to 6 COs. So this depends upon the course coordinator. And the third aspect is prepare a matrix of CO against PO, which means we need to prepare or map the course outcome of a particular course with the program outcome. Program outcome is common for a particular program, but the course outcomes may vary from course to course. Course is nothing but a subject. For example, POs of BSc Computer Science program. We supposed to create our POs in alignment of graduate attributes. We have 10 or 12 attributes. Based upon the graduate attributes, we have to frame our POs for a BSc Computer Science program. So we have a courses, for example, programming in C. So this programming in C may have 5 COs, CO1, CO2, CO3, CO4. And we have 10 POs. So we have to map this CO with the corresponding PO. So such a matrix, we can call it as CO to PO matrix or CO PO articulation matrix. This is about outcome-based curriculum. So the next aspect is outcome-based teaching learning process. How do we facilitate the student with OBLT, outcome-based learning and and teaching. So we are delivering an outcome-based curriculum to the students. How we can deliver this curriculum to the students? By giving a syllabus which is completely outcome-based. We would have to frame a course plan. I'll show you. So I'm having a sample syllabus with outcome-based education, and as I'm having a course plan also, I'll show you at the end of this session. And we have to deliver the lecture notes. They might have formats for lecture notes also. And we would have to state the learning styles for the students also. So, for example, you have to conduct the quiz. As per our traditional method, we have to conduct the quiz. For change, so you have to given a task to a student to organize a quiz among themselves, so that we would have to assess what is the cooperation behind the students and what sort of a collaboration is done with the students, right? So you might have a lot of aspects or attributes we need to assess from them. So these are the steps towards the implementation of OBLT to the students. So for first aspect is you need to develop a course plan that addresses all COs incorporating SLT. SLT is a very new concept which is not practiced by most of the institutions. So SLT is nothing but student learning time. Student learning time. You have to give a time to a student to learn a particular topic in your syllabus. So we need to prepare SLT also. So this is also a best practice. And second aspect is you have to ensure the balance of contents and the CO. So we have to state your COs. Most of the COs we supposed to pay. So most of the guidelines from the experts are you have to frame your COs in a generic way, not in a specific way, so that it will be very easy to assess. So you have to ensure the balance of contents and COs. Contents, which means syllabic content. And the third aspect is develop lecture notes, exercises, programs, activities to address the COs and SLT. So everything can be aligned with COs because we are assessing the course outcomes alone. As per the SLT, whether this particular course outcome is attained or not. This is what the end result. And the last one is develop assessment instruments for course evaluation. We might have a lot of assessment instruments. So we would have to seek a proper assessment method for evaluating a course. As I said, this is what the only report, so that it tells us whether the the outcome-based assessment is successfully done or not. This is about outcome-based learning and teaching. And the next aspect is outcome-based assessment. This is very, very important. So the assessment which leads to identifying, collecting and preparing a data from the student to evaluate the achievement of the COs and POs. So we need to identify the data, we need to collect the data, and we need to prepare the data to evaluate of the attainment of COs as well as POs. So the attainment is the real action for achieving the standard results, whether the desired goals are met or not. So most of the attainments, academic attainments, are observed through test and end semester examinations. So in outcome-based assessment, so it should be classified into two major types of assessments. One is direct way of assessing the student. Second one is indirect way of assessing the students. Direct assessment, indirect assessment. For assessing COs and POs. In order to assess course outcomes and program outcomes, we can either go for direct method or indirect method, or both. If we want to use both, we can use it. So I'll tell you the aspects related to direct and indirect methods. This is about outcome-based assessment. As I said, this CO assessment methods which are employed in outcome-based assessment in two ways. So the first method is, so the direct assessment method and the indirect assessment methods are considered for 80% and 20% weightages respectively. So we have to give 80% weightage for direct assessment because the direct assessment is purely mark-based assessment, whereas indirect assessment is purely survey-based assessment. That is why the less weightage is given to the indirect assessment, IDA. So the internal test, end semester examination assessment are considered with a weightage of 20% and 80% out of 80 for assessing direct assessment method for CO, course outcome. And method 2, the same method will be applicable. The direct assessment method and the indirect assessment method are considered to be 80 and 20% respectively, where the internal test, supporting activities, whatever be the activities which we are conducting, whether it is an assignment or a quiz or a capstone project or a mini project or a presentation or a group discussion, whatever it may be. Excuse me. The end semester examination assessments are considered with the weightage of 40%, 10% and 50% respectively. So the internal aspect, which CA aspect, which covers 50%, 40 plus 10, and the end semester examination result that covers 50% of weightage. These are the two famous methods are now we are practicing. Some of the engineering colleges, they would have come with method 1, and some of the colleges, they would have to follow method 2 also. So this is what the philosophy of outcome-based education. So we are focusing on the end results. What is the end results? End results are outcomes. So the outcomes are prepared based upon the graduate attributes that I have insisted already. So the outcomes are prepared in alignment with graduate attributes. So these outcomes, the graduate attributes, that will guide us to implement successfully with a curriculum as an outcome-based curriculum and outcome-based teaching and learning and an outcome-based assessment. So out of these three, my part is assessment. How to assess the students' COs and POs. So I am focusing on this particular aspect. So these are the elements of outcome-based education. So, so the major outcomes are the three major basic outcomes. One is course outcomes. This is up to the level of a course. Course is nothing but a subject. And program outcomes. This is the level of a program, up to the level of program. So program educational objective, it is an objective, program educational objective, it's up to the department level, right? So the course outcomes are nothing but the statements which can be assessed upon completion of a course. For example, the student is in the semester 2, so we need to assess at the end of the semester whether the course outcomes are attained or not. We need to seek a proper methodology to assess all the COs pertaining to all the subjects. So for second semester can have a number of subjects. Let's say that BSc Computer Science program can have 5 subjects. After assessing the COs, so all COs are linked with POs. You need to forward the results because we would have to make an articulation matrix with CO with PO. And so this once the COs are assessed, and you can take the CO to the PO, whether the PO is achieved or not. So this PO attainment is also calculated at the end of the 3rd year. After completion of the program, what the student will be able to do. So that is about program outcome. So what we are going to do is, every semester you need to assess the course outcome. The concerned course coordinator, the faculty, those who are teaching a course, has to assess what is the level of CO, what is the attainment of a CO. For example, programming in C might have 5 COs. What is the level of attainment of this particular CO1, CO2, CO3, CO4, CO5 at the end of this semester? Either I can go for direct method or I can go for indirect method. And most of the institutions, they would have to combine these two. 80% of direct assessment and 20% of indirect assessment. So this is the process which we are going to follow in our institution also. So that so I have formulated this strategy into 6 major steps. So those are the steps which are involved in CO-PO assessment. Step 1, what we are going to do is we have to obtain the course outcome. So you're supposed to know what actually the outcome of the course is. And step 2, we have to map each course outcome with the program outcome. So which we are aligning the CO with the PO in terms of CO-PO articulation matrix. We are mapping a CO course outcome with the program outcome. Program outcomes are nothing but the graduate attributes. And step 3, we have to set the weightage for the CO assessment. So this is what I have clearly mentioned. A CO can be assessed in 2 ways. Either you can go for direct or indirect. You have to state a weightage for CO with direct assessment of 80% and indirect assessment of 20%. It is a reasonable way. And step 4, the CO measurement through assessment. So you are going to evaluate a student. You are going to, assessment is different, evaluation is different. We are going to evaluate a student whether the COs are attained or not. We are going to measure. And step 5, obtain a CO attainment table. We are going to record each and every aspect. So this is what the major challenge that I am going to convey. What are the challenges which are faced by the faculty members while adapting this OBE? So obtaining a CO attainment table, we are going to prepare a table. So that table which contains direct as well as indirect assessment methods. Based on the methods, you have to record the assessment or attainment values. And step 6, obtain the PO attainment table through direct and indirect assessment method as per the C. So this is what the thing which we are going to perform with outcome-based assessment. So since we are in the rudimentary stage, that is why we have done this particular part alone. So the next aspect. So this is what the overview of the outcome-based assessment. So we need to understand the difference between what actually an assessment and what actually an evaluation is. And after that, we'll discuss the difference between the direct assessment and an indirect assessment. And we are going to decide on the direct assessment or indirect assessment to assess the COs. And after that, after assessing the COs, you have to decide on the indirect assessment methods for assessing POs. And at last, you have to understand all the data finally used to calculate POs and PSOs. So we are not looking for PEOs. So PEOs can be calculated only when the student is graduated after 3 to 4 years of gap. So what we are taking as an assessment part here, we need to assess with the help of the data which we would have obtained through this outcome-based curriculum and outcome-based learning and teaching. So we are going to assess only the COs, POs and PSS alone. So we are going to align this POs with PEOs after completion of this degree program, after 3 or 4 years, what the students will be, whether he is practicing his domain with an ethical and moral value and he is having a lifelong learning aspect. So a lot of aspects are related with that. So now we'll start with the assessment. Yes. So the assessment is nothing but an assessment that leads to learning. We should not compromise ourselves in the assessment part. So there is no meaning in, when you are compromising in your assessment, then there is no meaning in conducting the assessment. So we should be very accurate in calculating all the assessments. So this assessment is a major process of, as I said, identifying, collecting, and preparing the necessary data for evaluation. So evaluation is different. An evaluation is process of interpreting the data acquired through the assessment process in order to determine whether the PEOs are attained or not. At the final stage, we need to check whether, or we need to interpret whether the PEOs are attained, whether the PEOs are attained or not is an evaluation. Assessment is different, evaluation is different. A real assessment that will leads to learning always. So these are the two methods of assessment. One is direct assessment. So the direct assessment, as I have insisted already, it is purely mark-based assessment. So you are going to give some work to your student and you have to conduct a test, or you are going to conduct an examination and you have to collect the information and you have to assess it and you can put a numerical value. So this is about direct assessment. We are giving the work to the student, and based upon the work which is given, how the student will be performed on that particular test or exam or assignment or seminar, whatever it may be. You have to collect those information. So that is the direct assessment. Second one is the indirect assessment. The student have already completed a course or a program. So you have to, how the student is not in the institution, how you can get the values, how you can get the information? Only through surveys. That is why indirect assessment is always survey based. You have to prepare a questionnaire and you have to send it to the student and you ask them to fill the survey, and you can accumulate all the surveys and you have to prepare the consolidated statement. I'll be show you the template also for direct and indirect assessments, what we would have done so far. So these are the two methods of assessments, indirect and indirect. Direct is purely mark based, indirect is purely survey based. As I have already insisted, whatever may be the outcome, because our approach is outcome based approach, whatever may be the outcome, so we are going to involve with designing a curriculum or conducting ourselves in the outcome based learning and teaching, or we need to go for assessing an outcome of a student. We would have to align all the aspects with respect to Bloom's taxonomy. You have to incorporate all the aspects in the outcome based teaching and learning process with this Bloom's taxonomy, right? So that it will improve the structure of your outcome based education system, and it may also increase to improve the quality of assessment. So this Bloom's taxonomy was created, I think you are all aware. So Benjamin S. Bloom's. So the Bloom's taxonomy is mainly used for designing an assessment, preparation of a question paper, assessment. Everywhere we were using this Bloom's taxonomy. We need to check the level of Bloom's taxonomy also. What is the percentage of level 1? What is the percentage of level 2? And what is the percentage of a question which you would have taken from level 3? You would have to take question in knowledge level for undergraduate program, I'm speaking. Knowledge level, comprehension level, application level. So we are only taking of lower order thinking level rather than higher order thinking. For PG program is concerned, we need to go for higher order thinking. We can go for analysis, evaluation, and creation also. Higher order thinking skills. So you need to use all the verbs which we are going to use in the Bloom's taxonomy. So you need to assess the verbs also. The percentage of Bloom's verbs which we are using with the question, and as well as COs. When you are framing a CO, PO, and PEO, it is very compulsory that you have to use the verbs which are prescribed by the Bloom's taxonomy. And at last, assessment planning can also be done with the help of this alignment process, what we can call it as Bloom's taxonomy. Excuse me, sir. Am I audible to? Or am I audible to you all?
Yes, sir. Sir, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you, sir. So this is what I hope Madam Maheshwari will emphasize a lot about Bloom's taxonomy. So this is what would have taken from the net itself. So, so these are the descriptors: remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluation, and creation. The first three types of learning levels, we can say remembering, understanding, and applying, will be applicable for the undergraduate student. And the next three, we can call it as higher order thinking skills: analysis, evaluation, and creation. This is applicable for PG students, right? So based upon these level of attainment, we have to prepare your syllabic content and also the teaching and learning process, as well as the preparation of question paper. So these are the verbs. I don't want to touch more about the verbs. I think you're all aware what are the verbs which are related with the every level. Yes. So this is what the table which we need to follow for assessment planning using Bloom's taxonomy. As I said, so Bloom's taxonomy is very, very important for planning assessments. So for an undergraduate program, so you need to go for remembering, understanding, applying. In somewhat we can move to analyzing. For we are having final year project, internship training, so that we will be moving, we will be extending to the analyzing level also. So for this sort of a learning levels, we have to, as I said, for a direct method is concerned, you have to set up a fixed hour exam with respect to continuous internal evaluation and semester end exam, SCE, or end semester examination. And the projects, so the real outcomes we would have obtained from the projects of the students, whether it is a course project for a particular project. So for my project, as I used to give the students to PBL, project-based learning. So I have to identify, not for all the students. So I have two groups of people, and as I'll be giving some problems, some novel ideas I used to give, and the students, as I'll be assessing whether the student will be able to solve this particular problem, and whether he is having the capability or not. Course projects, mini projects, and a final year project, and capstone projects also. So those are the aspects which we need to go for the higher order thinking levels. Normally, for an undergraduate program is concerned, the first three levels, somewhat you can move to the fourth level, is sufficient as per the experts' reviews. So this is what the Bloom's taxonomy is somewhat involved in planning the assessment and conducting the assessment also. So, so we need to incorporating the outcome-based education in your question paper. So this is what a sample template that I made for this presentation. So I hope you would have aware. So you have to state your question number, questions, and you have to give the split up marks. When you're having three subdivisions, A, B, C, and you have to split the marks for the questions, and you have to mention. So this particular question is addressing which particular CO. You have to indicate whether the first question is addressing CO1, second question is addressing CO2, and third question is addressing CO3, like that. And so this particular question is belonging to which particular learning level, whether it is addressing understanding level or remembering level, understanding level, or application level, or analyzing level, right? So PA is nothing but the performance indicator, which is specific to the programs, but we are not taking much of the aspects related to performance indicators. They are the key indicators. Initially, we were practicing this much alone. So that is why, as I mentioned this one. As I'll show you the sample question paper also that I taken. So this is what the model question paper for programming and problem solving. So based upon the template that I have shown you in the previous slide, so this is what prepared based upon this. So I have to mention the question and what is the level of the question and what is the CO which is addressed, and this PA is nothing but performance indicator. I'll be explaining you the performance indicator later. And So this is what the question paper is prepared. This is what the structure of a question paper. So you need to check whether the verbs are present in the question. So we need not only check the verbs, we need to check the context of the question, whether this particular question is at the understanding level of a student, whether this question is under the remembrance level of the particular student, whether we are going to check whether the question is on the apply level of the student, right? So like that, you need to check the levels of learning for setting up a question paper. And after that, so we have to identify the outcomes, right? So what is the level of mark distribution? So level 2, so it takes 36% in this particular question. In the Bloom's taxonomy, level 1, so level 2, understanding level, so it is of 36%, 46% of applying level, and 18% of analyzing level. So this is how we are going to project the outcome of the question paper. What is the level of Bloom's, whether we are incorporating Bloom's taxonomy with your question paper, right? So, and so we are going to display what is the course outcome, CO wise mark distribution. CO1 is addressed with 8% of questions, CO2 20% of questions, CO3 54% of questions, CO4 is of 12%, CO5 of 6%. So this we want to indicate that whether we are incorporating the outcome-based education pattern in your question paper. So the committee will check whether so the sort of aspects which you are incorporating with your system or not. So this is what the real proof, whether we are incorporating the Bloom's taxonomy, whether we are incorporating, so we are taking the question by addressing the COs also, and what percentage of questions will be taken from which particular CO. So this particular CO1 can have 8%, similarly for all COs. This is about sample question paper. And these are the methods. So for direct assessment, as I said, it is purely it is mark-based assessment. So using this direct assessment, we are measuring the performances of the student. So we need to set up the performance indicators. These are the performance indicators. Test, we need to conduct class test or internal test, CIA. We used to give assignments, projects, tutorials, and we have to conduct the lab experiments. You have to ask viva, presentations, and in-semester examination. So all the aspects are fully mark-based. You based upon this particular methods, so tools, we are going to take the information from the student. We have to collect the information from the student for evaluation. And indirect assessment, so this is survey-based assessment. Whether the student is not present in the institution, after graduation he will be out of the institution. So what we are going to get, how you can get the value from, information from the student? Only through surveys. So you are going to ascertaining the opinion and the self-reports from the graduates in terms of the stakeholder surveys. Simply you can say stakeholder survey. Course and survey, this is the only indirect assessment method which we are going to get it from the student in the classroom itself. At the end of the semester, you can get the course and survey. So this is what really we are getting the feedback from the students at the end of the semester, right? And second one is program exit survey or program end survey. After completion of 3 years, immediately you have to get a survey from the student. So that survey, we can call it as program end survey. And alumni survey is a real input for calculating PEOs. After graduation, after 3 to 4 years of graduation, so you are going to get the data from the student about the graduate attributes. You are going to state the questions because your PEOs are aligned with GS, graduate attributes, whether the student is successful or not. So we can go for some certain evaluation related to PEO also. And the last, employer survey, where the student is really employed, you are going to get the survey from the employer also. So those are some of the surveys which you are going to take it from the students, and simply you can say it is stakeholder survey, and you can take the indirect assessment values for calculation or attainment. So this is what the process of assessing COs and POs. What we would have done is, so I'll be emphasizing what we are practicing in our institution. Excuse me. So I have created a master table. MT is nothing but a master table to calculate POs and
Excuse me,
POs.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, sir. I have a small doubt. Can I
Yes,
interfere
ma'am.
or I wait for the end of the session, sir?
Ma'am? Pardon, ma'am?
Can I ask now or shall I wait for the end of the session, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You can.
Sir, regarding this assessment, no. Suppose there
Yes.
is a practical question,
Yeah.
application-oriented question in our question paper. So
Okay.
when the student answers that, it automatically it implies that all the course outcomes or the objectives will be satisfied. She should have understood the question, understood the concept, the knowledge of that concept should be there, and then the process of how the concept is working, all that should be there. Only then the student can attend that application-oriented question. So in that case, how do you say that this much percentage for PO 1, 2, 3 is being obtained?
Ma'am, I have clearly explained. C was different, P was different. So at the end of the semester, you have to assess only COs.
Sir, you
After
explained regarding that question paper pattern assessment, no, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
There you say, suppose this question is answered, so 6% of that first objective, like that you explain, no? In that context,
Wait,
I'm
wait, wait.
asking.
Wait. I'll come to that particular slide. Is it right? This part.
The screen is not visible, sir.
Ma'am, it's visible, ma'am.
Is it okay, ma'am?
Maybe I couldn't get it.
Dr. N. Kumar is presenting இருக்கு பாருங்க, அதை கிளிக் பண்ணுங்க மேடம். Dr. N. Kumar is 2 இருக்கும், அதுல presenting
Pin.
கிளிக் பண்ணுங்க. Visible, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Now I can see. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So you're asking about this particular.
Not this slide, sir. The other one. Assessment direct and indirect you explained, no? Last you explained, no, sir? Just now, few minutes back.
Yes. Yeah.
Sir, next slide.
This one?
Yeah. Here, no, you were explaining about the percentage of each question in correspondence with the objectives which we have written. 6%, 10%, understanding level, application, like that you were explaining, no?
No. So these are the possible methods.
Okay.
In the direct assessment, these are the possible methods. You may use any one of this method. It's not compulsory to use all the methods.
Okay.
So that is what I am conveying.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So in the assessment of COs, course outcomes and program outcomes, what we would have done is we would have created a master table to calculate program outcomes and program specific outcomes. And we would have decided on assessment tools for assessing COs and POs. What ma'am is asked about. So what are the tools that I am using? Whether I'll be taking CIA, I'll be taking assignment, I'll be taking a quiz. So all the assessment tools that I'll be taking as a measure or a tool for assessing a particular CO. So this CO will be aligned with a particular PO. So the contribution of CO to the PO is different. We are not directly assessing POs. and calculating COs and POs using direct and indirect methods. And finally, we need to interpret the attained values for course outcomes and program outcomes. So I made it for 4 major steps. In step 0, what I have done is I have created a master table to calculate program outcomes. I need to create a master table to calculate program outcomes at the end of the 3rd year. At the end of the 3rd year, I will be assessing the program outcome. So that is what the real meaning of program outcome. Upon completion of a program, what the student will be able to know. So that is about program outcome and program specific outcomes also. If you are having program specific outcomes, you can measure it in the master table. So the course outcomes are being calculated as a part of calculating program outcomes. With the course outcomes only, we are mapping the course outcomes to the corresponding PO so that we can calculate the COs as a part of this particular activity. And so I'll show you some of the, so this is what the format. So I'm sorry. So this format that I've taken from my previous college. So that is why the semesters mentioned up to 6. So but we are having only 6 semesters. So from semester 1 to semester 6, you have to mention all the courses. So each courses you might have course outcomes. So this course outcomes can be mapped with the corresponding POs, program outcomes, as well as program specific outcomes. Here in this particular format, so I have taken this particular format for an engineering program, for a BTech IT program, I think. So this 12 POs are standard POs which are given by the NBA, so the National Board of Accreditation. So what we would have done is we would have framed 2 program specific outcomes for BTech IT program. That is why I mentioned 2 PSOs here. So for the entire set of 8 semesters that I prepared the course matrix, so which are assigned with CO with PO mapping. So the mapping can be mentioned whether the CO1 is strongly correlated with PO1. CO1 is moderately correlated with PO4, and CO1 is weakly correlated with PO8. So likewise, we are going to mention the values, or simply I used to put a tick mark whether the correlation is having with COs with the corresponding PO. And likewise, after that, so what I have done is I'm going to calculate the total COs for a particular PO. As I used to compute all the total values, and we need to set up a target percentage. So this target percentage will be anonymously taken as 60% for the overall weightage for all the aspects which we need to taken for the assessment, which is moderately it is taken. Yeah. And or otherwise, if we can get more reliable result, we are going to assess the last 3 years result of the same subject. We are going to calculate the value from the results, and you have to keep those values as a target here. So that is more reliable way. And after, you need to calculate the rest of the things by using some of the steps which I am going to explain further. So average of all COs for POs, and I will be coming to this particular slide at last. And step 1, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide what are the assessment tools that I'm going to take it for assessing a course outcomes and the program outcomes. So this can be done with the help of a table that I have prepared. So this is what, so the assessment methods, assessment tools, and purpose for calculation and the remarks. So the assessment method that I've taken is direct assessment. As I insisted, direct assessment is a mark-based assessment. Whether I want to assess the assignments, projects, test, end semester examination. As a part of indirect assessment, so we used to consider the course and survey, program exit survey, and alumni survey for calculating or assessing program outcomes. So the course and survey, which falls on both, whether is neither direct or indirect. Neither direct or indirect. So the course and survey, which can be taken as a direct assessment tool. So this all values to assessment methods and the assessment tools, the purpose of calculating direct assessment for course outcomes alone, and the purpose of calculating or purpose of assessing indirect way of assessment, calculating program outcomes alone. So all the values of CO, POs can be computed, will be used to calculate the final value of PO and PSO that I have shown in the last table in the previous slide. Step 2. So the course outcome calculation for course. Particular course, how will you calculate the outcome? So this outcome will be in table 2 that I will show you. And course outcome calculation for a single student based on direct assessment tools that I have shown in table 2.A, and 2.B, course outcome calculation based on IDE. So we have a course and survey, right? So the course and survey will be taken as an indirect tool. So that is why the value can be plotted in the table 2.B. And finally, you can consolidate the CO calculations by using table 2 with the values taken from table 2.A and 2.B. So that I'll show you the formats. So this is what the CO calculation table for a particular student based on direct assessment tools. So for a course, we might have a course outcome, say CO1 to CO6. So these are the internal assessment components: test 1, test 2, assignment, percentage, quiz. And the mark obtained by the candidate out of 15, 10, 10, 8, 4, and 4. And CO value in percentage, which will be calculated by total marks obtained by the candidate divided by the total marks, and it will be taken as a percentage, 36 divided by 50 as a 72%. And the end semester examination, as in the engineering colleges, they would have to give only the grades. So the vote that represent 95%, so that I'll be assigning directly. So final CO attainment can be taken in percentage by adding the CO attainment value in internal assessment plus end semester examination divided by 2, you'll get the CO1 percentage. Similarly, you used to calculate CO2, CO3, CO4 up to CO6. How many number of COs where you are going to kept in your syllabus? So you are going to compute in this particular way. You can get a numerical value related to CO attainment in a direct method. And the second table, so this is a form that I have created for getting the student course exit survey for both theory and laboratory programs. So the purpose of creation of this form is to assess only COs in the indirect way, because the student has to put a mark in this particular survey form. So this survey form is mainly used to collect the students in that particular course. So this may include all the aspects related to the faculty, designation, department, course code, course name, student name, roll number will be the optional, program, semester, branch, academic year, and so on and so. And what we have done is, for each CO, we are going to ask a question pertaining to that particular CO. For CO1, I need to ask one question or two questions. So if it is one question, we no need to take an average. If it is two questions, you need to take an average of these two questions. So what I have done is I have taken a questionnaire related to this COs. So I'm going to take a question which is addressing CO1, CO2, CO3, CO4, which means what extent this particular CO1 will be applicable for your career. So like that, as I'll be asking a question, and I'll be giving this particular survey form to the student. And so to go through this particular survey, and the student has to put a rating whether he'll obtaining a knowledge about this particular CO1 is poor or average or good. So if it is poor, as will be indicated by 1, so he or she will put a tick mark. So out of this survey, we can collect the data, and I'll be posting this particular value to another form. So in this particular form, so I'll be organizing the data in the form of student roll number, name, and CO1, CO2, CO3 up to n number of COs. So you're going to put the marks, whether the student have award, poor, average, or good. So whether I am going to add all, as I'm going to record all the data which is given by the student in the form of course exit survey form. And out of 60 students will be taken all the values for the count of survey scale values 1. How many number of students have given 1 for CO1? How many number of students have given 3 marks for CO1? And how many number of students have given 5 marks for CO1? So likewise, you can calculate all the aspects. So this is a very important aspect. You have to fix 60% of weightage for all COs. The target can be fixed from fixed for different COs. It is not mandatory to kept all COs as 60. And so only the survey scale values 3 and 5 will be considered for calculation. So the number of survey scale values which would have taken by offering the values 3 and 5 is 45. Because we would have taken 15 plus 30, it is 45. So the CO attainment as an indirect method, course exit survey. So the CO attainment value in percentage, it will be given as, so the number of survey scale value of 3 or 5 divided by the total number of students, you will get a percentage. So this will be the another value which you would have taken from the indirect assessment for a particular course. So the CO can be assessed in 2 ways. Either you can go for direct assessment method in the previous table, or you can go for indirect assessment in this particular table. So this is very simple aspect. So initially we will move to the OBE, or we need to practice this OBE. Simply the experts are recommending you can go with only the indirect assessment method, and then later you can go for direct assessments. So this is what the consolidated table. So what I have taken is, so the CO calculation for student 1 to student 60. So through this values which would have obtained from the direct assessment method for CO1 for student 1, CO2, CO3, CO4 up to n number of COs, we can record all the values up to 60 students. So you have to take the average of this. The CO attainment value for a batch or a class. So the batch average can be taken. So the total of all COs divided by the total number of students will give us the value. So after that, so you need to calculate the part B. The part B is about indirect assessment. So CO attainment value from course and survey as an indirect assessment can be taken here. So which means the previous form value will be carried forward to this particular form, and we need to take the average. So the calculation both direct assessment and indirect assessment, so the final CO attainment will be taken the sense of A plus B divided by 2. You can get the final CO attainment of the student in both direct as well as indirect assessment. So in step 3, so how can you calculate the program outcomes? So the program outcomes can be calculated or assessed only through the indirect assessment alone. So there is no direct methods that employed to calculate the program outcomes or to assess the program outcomes. So the program outcome calculations can be based on 2 major surveys. One is program end survey and second one is alumni survey. So the program exit survey or program end survey, we need to prepare a survey form as per the course end survey. And similarly, for assessing PEOs, you need to assess an alumni survey with the help of an alumni survey form as per the course end survey. So you need to record the data which you would have obtained from the survey form in the corresponding format, and you need to make a calculation. I'll show you the format for this also. So this is what the program end survey form, so which contains student name and roll number, which is optional, and program and batch of the student. And here we are mentioning the program outcomes. So as I said, the program outcomes are really they are really the graduate attributes. So why I am taken for PO1 to PO12 is, so this program end survey form that I've used for BTech IT program, so where I was used in an engineering program. And PSO1 and PSO2 is program specific outcomes which are related to BTech IT program rather than all POs. And so you are going to make a question which is related to PO1, PO2, PO3 up to PO12 and POs also posted, and you ask the student to award the marks. So this can be taken only when the student is out of the campus. Entire out of 3 years, you are going to get the values. What the student will be able to know at the end of the program. Immediately, after 3 years, you are going to get the survey immediately, so that we can get the reliable value. So the values which are given by the students can be posted in this particular form. So this form is very similar to your course and survey form, form 2.b. So similarly, we can record all the values which are given by the student in terms of PO1 to PO12 and PSOs also. And you can take the count of survey scale values for 1, 3, and 5, and you can calculate how many students have given value 1, and how many students have given a value 3, and how many students have given a value 5. So it's taken as a fixed initial, and it is incorporated in the program outcome target, which is incorporated in the master table itself. So you no need to fix this target for this particular aspect. So the number of survey scale values for 3 and 5 will be only be considered. So for 3, the number of respondents in survey scale value 3 is 20, and number 5 is 30. Totally, it will be calculated as 50. Now the PO attainment value in percentage will be calculated by the number of students who are given the survey scale values 3 and 5 divided by the total number of students will be taken, and so this percentage will be the real attainment of PO values as per indirect method. So finally, you can combine this direct and indirect, you can get the real PO, whether the PO is attained or not. And so the alumni survey form is also similar to this. So whereas the program exit survey can be taken immediately after 3 years, where the alumni survey form will be given to the students after 3 to 4 years. After the graduation, 3 to 4 years, you are going to get the alumni survey also. So that survey will also take the same format as per the program exit survey. So this is what the tool where you are going to record the values as per your alumni survey form, and it will be calculated. And at last, so what we would have done is we have calculated COs in direct method and indirect method, and finally you would have taken up the average of these two. We can kept all the values in the CO table, and for PO we would have calculated through program in survey and alumni survey, and those two values can be upgraded in this master table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed all the data which are calculated in step 2 and step 3 in the PO calculation matrix or PO calculation master table, and to analyze the results, and you have to prepare the action taken report, ATR, action taken report according to the results. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for step 0 to record all the values which you would have obtained from CO and PO calculation, both direct and indirect. So this is what the master table. So the total CO and PO which I obtained for the value which I obtained through this direct and indirect method for PO1 or CO1 is 82%. Irrespective of the correlation, whether this particular aspect would give us 82%. So that is why I am putting 82% anonymously. And the PO targets are fixed, 75, 70. So based upon the program outcomes, we need to fix our targets. And total COs and POs can be calculated out of the number of cores into the number of cores into the number of COs. We can get the total number of COs, so which can be obtained, and the average can be taken from calculation part. So the average of all COs for POs will be 68%. So out of 390 courses, what is the contribution of this particular PO1 pertaining to all CO in the all courses? So PO values which I have taken from the program exit survey, which would have taken from table 3.A, and PO values from alumni survey, which would have taken from 3.B, and PO attainment finally can be calculated. So the direct and indirect assessment of COs for all POs plus program exit survey value plus alumni survey value divided by 3, we can get the PO attainment value. So this value will be compared with the target value of PO target percentage. So by comparing the PO attainment C is nothing but the PO attainment final value. So with the PO target B and stating whether the PO has been attained or not. So whether it is attained, you have to put A. So if it is not attained, you have to put NA, and you need to go for an action taken report where actually we are lacking. So this is what the format that I have done through only in Excel. So I have assessed 3 batches. So I'll be getting some reliable values too. So whereas in NGP, so I have given a direction to move with indirect analysis alone, because they have introduced this outcome-based education in 2018 onwards. So they didn't go for any assessment. So that is why almost 1 batch is gone. And that is why we need to, it is not an easy task to go for direct assessment method. We need to keep all the records of the student, whether the CAA paper, test paper, assignment, and each and every aspects. That is why we plan to go for indirect assessment alone. That's it. So the last aspect which we are going to discuss is what are the challenges which are faced by the faculty members while adapting this outcome-based education in the institutions. So I have given some of the challenges faced by the faculty members while adapting the outcome-based education. So OB is definitely boon the faculty and educators. However, managing this new way of teaching and learning may bring a lot of challenges, like managing the records of the students. So we are managing the records of the students in manual way. So it is a very toughest task to manage all the records of the student, because we are moving with direct assessment. So we are in a position to keep record of all things of the student, almost for a particular batch. And second challenge is designing an appropriate curriculum. So while we are designing an appropriate curriculum, definitely it requires a lot of effort by the faculty member. And the third thing is analyzing the vast student databases is highly a draining task. When we can go for assessment, so you need to have a proper analysis, so that it will be a lot of task involved in it. And the last one is, the next one is prioritizing the weightage of assessment. So you are going to give which particular, so what weightage is given to the particular, what component you are going to give the weightage. So the prioritization will be the problem again. And the next one is, so when you are maintaining manually all the records, so there is a huge possibility of errors in manual calculation of student attainments. This could be a major problem. And the last one is so improper mapping and measuring of COs and POs. So as I said, CO mapping and COs with POs is a constructive alignment process. We should be very careful in mapping COs with POs. So the improper mapping will lead to a lot of problems. So these are some of the challenges. So this is what a sample outcome-based syllabus, so which is prescribed by the NAC recently. So we would have gone for learning outcome-based framework, LOCF. So we have given a preamble, by giving 2 or 3 objectives pertaining to a particular subject with the keywords of learn and understand. So this course is designed to the students to learn and understand the fundamentals. So this is what my subject that I've taken, fundamental aspects of C programming, and make the student to develop logics with the help of them to create programs. So likewise, you have to define our objectives. So objectives are teacher centric, and what a successful completion of a course, what the student will be able to do, whether he will be understanding the fundamentals of a language or applying the conditional and looping statements in a program, understanding the representation and usage of arrays. So likewise, so you're going to mention, so you're going to state your SIBO statements clearly, and you are going to specify the appropriate knowledge levels. And this is what the table that I have shown you. This matrix is called SIBO to PIVO articulation matrix, SIBO PIVO articulation matrix. So you're going to map the SIBO with corresponding PIVOs, right? So here the mapping will be given as a tick. So to avoid unnecessary confusions, so you're going to mention a tick mark. So somewhat the SIBO is correlated with PIVO1. Similarly, PIVO2. There is no correlation with SIBO1 with PIVO3, 4, and 5. So it is not mandatory to map all SIBOs with all PIVOs. If there is a correlation, you can put a tick mark, otherwise you can left it. So this is what the sample syllabus for my course that I have prepared. Credits, instruction hours for each unit. I have prepared for, for an engineering colleges, they used to keep only 3 modules, whereas in arts and science colleges, so we can go for 5 units. So I have prepared a CEO for each unit. That is why I used to keep 5 CEOs, which will address all the 5 units. And this is what the references, text, and reference books. And I'll show you the course plan also. So this is what the course plan that I prepared for data structures and algorithms. So this course plan, so is purely outcome based. So the course code, course title, course type, what type of a course it is, whether you're having part 1, part 2 language courses, and part 3 IDC as well as core courses. If it is an IDC, you have to mention IDC. If it is a core, you can mention a core course. If you have any prerequisite courses, you have to mention that also. So, and after that, you'll be mentioning the course synopsis. And if it is a lab course, you are going to mention the list of experiments and the credit also. The total lecture hours, total tutorials, and laboratory hours. So whether the course is offered the first time, so whether you are going to mention the semester and then the academic year. And this is what the real mapping, CO PIVO articulation matrix. So here I'll be mentioning all the CBOs in correlation with all the PIVOs, right? So at the time, as I'll be mentioning the Bloom's taxonomy also, and I have to mention the possible assessment too. So what are the possible assessment? So I'll be again stressing it. Those are the possible assessment. It is not mandatory for all CBOs to assess. So this sort of a mapping is done. I suspect as I'll be out of time. And this is what the real teaching plan. So the course content. So whether the delivery mode, whether as I'll be delivering the lecture or PPT or seminar, whatever may be the thing which you are going to make it as a delivery mode, and the level of the student, level of learning, cognitive level, whether it's under the K2 level or K3 level or K1 level, and possible assessment for this particular content, whether this particular content can be assessed through an assessment, GED, presentation, test 1, and end semester examination. Those are the possible assessment, which means we are not assessing this particular course content through all assessments. We have to either I'll be taking as an, I'll be giving an assignment with history of algorithm. So that is enough. and I'll be taking a question pertaining to CO1 with define algorithm in test 1. And this also be repeated in end semester examination also. This sort of an assessment can be done with the help of possible assessments. And so these are the evaluation patterns. So the contribution of evaluation. So this is what, as I mentioned clearly, so I need to mention the weightage of the assessment method. So the content internal test 2, so I'll be taken 2.5 weightage. So I'm going to conduct 2 tests, CAA 1 and CAA 2. The total marks that I've taken for this is 5 marks. For model exam, I will be conducting 1 model exam. So the 10 mark weightage is given. So I'll be taking 10 marks. So we are having an assessment called rubric based assessment in terms of quiz, assignment, presentation, GAD, etc., etc. So for that, as I'll be having 10 mark weightage. So I'll be opting any one of this and I'll be awarding 10 marks. Totally 25 marks as an internal mark, and external evaluation, the student has to appear for 75 marks. He'll be writing for 100 and it will be converted as 75. So for practical also, we have an internal test, 2 tests with a weightage of 10. So totally 20, and for model exam, 20. Weightage is 20. 1 model exam, it is 20. 20 plus 20, it is 40. And for external evaluation, it will be evaluated for 60 marks. Yes. So all the data that I've taken for this presentation, that I've taken from the reference AECT exam reforms from AECT websites, and some of the resources that I have taken from NAC website also. Thank you. Thank you for your patient listening. Have any queries?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the neat presentation, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Very much.
Thank you, sir.
Participants, any queries? Dear participants, any queries from audience side? Sir, I am asking one question, sir.
Yes, sir.
Based
Yes,
upon the knowledge level.
yes, sir.
Sir, if the knowledge level is up to 12, I think I defaultly mentioned in that. So we need to suppose reduce or increasing, it is possible to that, sir?
Sir,
Based upon our curriculum?
I can't get your question, sir.
Yes, sir?
என்ன question எனக்கு புரியல. Hello, sir?
Sir?
Pardon, sir?
Sir, knowledge level, sir. Suppose we mentioned K1, K2, K3.
Yeah.
So this
Level
knowledge
2.
level, how to we fix that knowledge level into our curriculum, sir? Is we have any basic idea from that? Anything is available, sir?
So in preparation of CO, you are asking, sir.
Yes, sir.
So it is a very big task to fix a CO for a particular course content. First, you have to frame the COs. After that, only we have to frame a curriculum. So this is what the right practice, which the foreign people are practicing. So I have visited the university named University of Malaysia, Perlis. So I come to know that they initially used to form a CO with levels, and after that only they will be preparing a course content.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Any queries from audience?
But we are doing a reverse engineering. Once we can take a book and we have to keep all the contents, and after that only we used to start for framing COs.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I think you clearly explained everything so that nobody can have any questions, sir, I think.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. This is time for vote of thanks to our resource person. Now invite Dr. Krishnaveni, Madam, Head of the Department, Computer Science, to present the vote of thanks. Ma'am?
Sir, I'm audible, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon to everyone. I am Dr. S. Krishnaveni, Head, Department of Computer Science, and I am here to present the vote of thanks for today's webinar. I would like to thank our chief guest, Dr. N. Kumaresh, from Dr. NGP Arts and Science College, Coimbatore, to deliver the speech about outcome-based assessment tools and techniques. It gave deep insight into the topic and also very crystal clear information. I am pretty sure the precious knowledge that Sir gave us will definitely help us to our staff community. Once again, I would like to thank Sir for taking out time from their busy schedule and enlightening us with the knowledge. Thank you so much, Sir. I would like to thank our Principal Madam for giving permission to organizing the webinar session and inviting Dr. N. Kumaresh to conduct it. Thank you, ma'am. I want to thank the committee, PDT and IQAC cell members, Dr. A. Subramani, Dr. K. Periyasamy, Dr. K. M. Sumati, and Dr. K. Ramasamy, who really worked hard and made this event successful. Also, thank you to all the participants, my own colleagues present here, for paying your attention and learning. Thank you to all and all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Wind up
Thank
the
you so much,
session,
sir. Yes,
Thank
sir. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you so
Thank
much,
you.
sir, for the
Thank you.
cooperation. Thank you. Dear participants, dear colleagues, dear professors, the feedback of this webinar is posted to our academic platform WhatsApp group. Thank you. Thank you for patient here. Thank you. Thank you.